Assalamu alaikum. Today I will show you how to configure a network using static routing. I have already shared a video with the network with the two routers, and today I will configure a network that has the three routers and at least four subnets. And I will use the static routing, and I will use the both static and dynamic routing. For first video, I will show you how to communicate using the static routing, and for the same network in the next video I will show you how to do it with the dynamic routing. Okay, let's just start. We'll connect the two routers using serial port, and then I will connect one subnet, at least one subnet, with each router. One subnet here, one subnet here, and I will connect it using fast Ethernet. And at last I will connect the terminal devices, at least two devices per subnet. And for IP addressing, I will use the static IP addressing now. Okay, now I have connected all the devices. Now I will write the network addresses. Just to remember, there is no need for this, but if you want it, it's good for your understanding, and when you are configuring, it helps you which subnet has what network address. So this one would be 192.168.10.0 class C IP address. This one would be 192.168.20.0. That's also a class C IP address. A network address 192.168.30.0 class C IP address. So to differentiate between these subnets from the core network, I will use the class C IP addresses here and class A IP addresses to connect router to router, one router to another router. So this one would be 10.0.0.0, and this one would be 11.0.0.0. So this is a serial port. We are using this network address, so we will give the IP address to both the interfaces as well. I will write the IP address as well, 10.0.0.1 this interface, and this interface will be 10.0.0.2. all right, so these will be the IP addresses of these ports. Now this side 11.0.0.1 and 11.0.0.2. For the understanding why we are using this, why we are writing the IP addresses here, not the network address, you can go back and check the video where I show you how to configure a simple router. Okay, now I have draw all the network here. Now I will start the configuration. So first I will start with the PC. This is, go to the desktop, IP configuration, IP address. So this is the network address. The gateway address would be the first IP address 192.168.10.1, and I will give the IP address, the next IP address will be given to this PC. .1 has already been used. I will use .2, and subnet mask. Okay, now this PC, go to desktop, IP configuration. 1 and 2 has been used. I will use 3 here, and the default gateway would be the same because they belong to the same subnet. The default gateway of all the terminal devices of the same subnet would be same. Okay, now this one would be 192.168.20, I guess. Yes, dot 20.2, and the gateway address would be the first IP address, that would be 1. Copy the same subnet and different terminal device. 1 and 2 has been used. I'll use 3, and gateway address would be the same for both. Now the last one, 192.168.30.2. Gateway address, copy the gateway address because all the terminal devices of this subnet will have the same gateway address. 1 has been used, 2 has been used, I'll use 3 here, and gateway address would be the same. Okay, now I've configured all the PCs here. Now it's time to configure the router. First, I will configure the Ethernet interfaces of all the routers. Let's start from here. I will go into the configuration mode. No. First, I will enable the router, then config T to tell the router that I am about to configure a terminal. Then you need to tell the router which terminal you are going to configure. So I'm going to configure this Ethernet interface, and the name of interface is FA0/0. So I will write the interface FA0/0. Okay. On this side, this network is attached, so I will add the gateway address to this interface. So the command is IP address space the gateway of these two pieces were 192.168.10.1 and its subnet mask. Subnet mask is, it's a class C IP address, so its subnet mask is 255.255.255.0. 10.1. all right. No shut, you see it turn into green. Similarly, I'll go to the second router and I will configure the Ethernet interface. CLI mode, enable the router, then config T, then interface which interface I'm going to configure, FA0/0, this one. Interface FA0/0. What is the IP address here? In IP address, we will add the gateway address here. Gateway address of the subnet that is attached to this Ethernet interface. It's 192.168.20.1, and then the subnet mask 255.255.255.0. no shut. So this interface is also up. Now the last router here and its fast Ethernet interface, command prompt, enable the router, config T, interface. The interface is FA0/0, 0/0. The IP address, in IP address we will write the gateway address that we used here. The gateway address that we used here is 192.168.30.1, 255.255.255.0, no shut, exit. Okay, we have configured the Ethernet interfaces. Now we are going to configure the serial interface. For the serial interface, I have already uploaded the video on my channel. You can check it out. Here I will just write the commands. Okay, first I will write config T, then I will tell the router which interface I'm going to configure, and the interface name is SC2/0. SE2 by 0. The clock rate is given on the side of the serial interface where you see the clock. So I will add the clock rate. The clock rate 64. Now I will write the IP address. For this interface, we write the gateway address of this whole subnet. For this, we give them the individual IP address because we are going to use it in the routing, static routing. Okay, the IP address for this interface I already written here. We will just use it 10.0.0.1 and its subnet mask, it is class A IP address. So its subnet mask is 255.0.0.0. No shut. The state is not up because we only configured the one side of the serial interface. The state will be up when we configure the other side of the serial interface. So we will go to this router and now we will configure the serial interface here. Now it has the two serial interfaces, so we will configure both of them separately. So first we are going to configure this and enable config T interface. The name of interface is SE2 by 0. SE2 by 0 IP address. There is no clock on this side, so we are not going to give the clock rate here. We are just adding the IP address. What is the IP address here? 10.0.0.2. 10.0.0.2 and the subnet mask 255.0.0.0. No shut. You see the state changed to up. The same we are going to do. Okay, the same router, we have another serial interface, so we are going to do that as well. Config T interface. What is the name of the interface? The interface name is SE3 by 0. SE3 by 0. There is clock here, so we are going to give clock rate as well, 64 8000. Then IP address. IP address for this interface is 11.0.0.1 and subnet mask 255.0.0.0. No shut. Exit. So the state is not up because we have configured only one side of the serial interface. Now we are going to configure the other side as well. Config T interface. Here the interface is, let me check it again. What is the name of the interface? SE2 by 0. SE2 by 0. Interface name is SE2 by 0 and there is no clock, so no need to give the clock rate, and IP address 11.0.0.2 and subnet mask 255.0.0.0. No shut. Exit. Okay, now we have configured the network. The only thing that still remains, but still the packets are not sent from this side to this side. It's failed. Why? Because the router doesn't know the route to all the subnets. I can show you here. This is the router. Show IP route. It doesn't know all the networks, all the subnets. So to be able to send the packets to all the subnets in the network, the router must know the path to each of them. That path is given by routing. So we will do the static routing and as well as dynamic routing, and we will see how this the path is given, how the routing is done, and then how the router is able to send packets to each subnet in the network. Okay, now we will add the route. We will do the static routing here. First, let me show you the routing table of each router to you. Enable show IP route. So there are three subnets here: 10.0, 20.0 and 30.0. To be able to communicate packets between all these subnets, this router must have information of all these subnets, but it knows only 10.0. Similarly, this router, to be able to send packets to each subnet, it must have information of all the subnets, but show IP route, it has information of only one network, and that is the one that is directly connected to it, 30.0. So what is routing? In routing, we tell the path to the router. Okay, if you have a message, if you have a packet for some certain subnet, where to forward the packet, on what interface you need to forward the packet. All right. Okay, this is called the routing. First method that we're going to use here is called static routing. In static routing, we add the route on each router. All those routes that are unknown to the router are added in its using the command. Here it has the information about 10.0, so we need to add 20.0 and 30.0. What is the command? The command that is used is IP route, and then we write the network address of the subnet that is not known by this router, then its subnet mask, and then the next hop address. The next hop address means if you want to reach that specific subnet, where to forward the packets. I'll tell you how. Config T. So this router knows 10.0. Let's suppose first we need to add this 20.0. So what is the command? The command is IP route. Then we write the network address of the subnet. So network address of this subnet is 192.168.20.0. 192.168.20.0. And then the subnet. What is the subnet mask? This is the class C IP address. So the subnet mask is 255.255.255.0. And the next hop address. The next hop address is very important. The next hop address tells the router if you have any packet that has the destination address that belongs to this network, then where to forward the packet. So this router needs to forward it here. So the next hop address is this hop. This hop is identified by its IP address. So we will write the IP address here. What is the IP address? 10.0.0.2. So the network has been added. So this router doesn't know 20. This router also doesn't know the 30 network address. So we're also going to add the network route for 30. Now the interesting thing is the 30 network lies here, but the path for this router to reach this network is also this. So the next hop address will be the same. Next hop address will be the same. So we have added both the networks. Correct. Now we will move on to the next router. Now this router, let's first see how many networks are known by this router. Show IP route. So it knows only 20. So this router needs to add the route of network address 10.0 and 30.0. Okay, config T IP route. So first we will add 192.168.10.0. This is the network address of this subnet. Okay, 10.0, then the subnet mask 255.255.255.0 and the next hop address. For this router to reach 10.0, which interface it should send? It should forward the packet to this interface. And what is the IP address of next hop? It is 10.0.0.1. 10.0.0.1. So we write the interface where this router needs to forward the packet to reach this specific subnet. To reach this network, the router need to send the packet to this interface. Added. Now it knows 20. We added 10. The only network subnet that is left, that is 30.0. 30.0. Where is 30.0? The 30.0 lies on this interface. And what is the next hop address here? It's 11.0.0.2. So this one would be, 30.0 lies at 11. 1 is this interface, so we need to add the next hop address 2. 11 and 2. So it knows 20 network, we added 10 network and 20 network. Alright, now the last router. This router show IP route. It knows the 30 networks, so we need to add 10 and 20. Okay, config T IP route 192.168.10.0, then subnet mask 255.255.255.0. Alright, and the next hop address. For this router to reach 10.0, it needs to forward the packet on this interface. So what is the IP address of next hop? It is 11.0.0.1. So the next hop address is 11.0.0.1. Okay? Then the last network is 20.0. To reach the 20 network also, this router needs to forward the packet on this interface. And what is the next hop address is 11.11.0.0.1. 11 for 20, okay, done. So we have done the routing. Now we will check the routing table again. Now you will see that each router will have the information about all the networks. Show IP route. Now you can see it knows 10.0, it knows 20.0, and it knows 30.0. Now this is very important. C means directly connected. So this network and this network is directly connected, and 20 and 30 we added this network by adding the route to it, and this S here stands for static. We use the static routing here. So this routing table, this tells us that this router can reach 20 network and 30 network via the interface 10.0.0.2, 10.0.0.2, and these two routes are added using the static routing. Now we will send the packet and you will see if the communication is possible. The first is always a problem because the route is not known. So it's alright, go to simulation mode, then go back to the real-time mode. See, now the messages are being sent from this subnet to the other subnet. This is called the static routing. Thank you.